Well, Tony, first of all, we're talking to Hall of Fame announcer and currently the play-by-play announcer with AEW Collision and Dynamite, Tony Schiavone. And Tony, this is a joy for me. So thank you for coming here.
I've been so warmly welcomed here, Jermaine. Thank you to you and everybody in the staff here. It's been great. It's great being back here in the Roanoke Valley, being back, being able to do wrestling here, what I consider my home, because my hometown is like 70 miles, I guess, you know, up 81, so to speak. So it's great being back, and this is it's kind of surreal, really, to be back here and be doing wrestling once again.
You know, you talk about AEW and just the growth of it, and,
right.
and it's coming here to Roanoke
right.
on obviously August the 9th as we're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you got the word that they're coming to Roanoke and it's going to be a TNT Collision,
right.
what was your thoughts on that? Because I just know you're from here, and I had to fire you. Right?
Yeah, it really did. I'm the one that does the play-by-play on Collision. Excalibur does the play-by-play on Dynamite, and he's kind of our lead announcer, and I just lend my voice on Dynamite. So I was excited. I was talking to the guys a lot. I said, are we going to work somewhere in Virginia besides Norfolk? Because we've been down to Norfolk at ODU many, many times to do our show. And they said, yeah, we're working on that. I said, there's the Roanoke Civic Center. I said, I know the old Richmond Coliseum has been leveled. There's got to be a place in Virginia we're going to do it. And they finally told me we're going to Roanoke. And I went, yes, we're going to Roanoke. So I'll be able to go home. And then when I found out it was a Saturday and I found out it was the show that I do the lead announcing on, it really excited me that I would be coming back here.
You know, we talked off camera. I mean, your love for wrestling, you know, developed at an early age. Where did that really come from? Because, like I said, you're kind of like the soundtrack of everyone's life when it comes to wrestling.
Sure. It came from the 70s, watching wrestling on Saturday afternoons with my Uncle John. He loved wrestling, and on a Saturday afternoon, I would hang out with him, and he was so into it. He was so passionate about it. As a matter of fact, a very quick story here. One of the first matches I ever went to, maybe the first match I ever went to, Harrisonburg High School gym. I bought the entire front row for my family. It was like 3 of my cousins, my sister, and my Uncle John and my Aunt Frances. And I sat down at one end with my cousin Butchie, and Uncle John and Aunt Frances were down at the other end of this ringside. And it was Flair and Valentine against Wahoo and Johnny Weaver. And they rolled out of the ring. And my Uncle John, who was very elderly at that time, had these crutches, right, that hooked onto the arm, these steel crutches that he walked with, okay? A fan jumped on the back of Ric Flair, and the fight was on. The fan immediately regretted that he did that because he got his rear end beat by not only Flair, but by Valentine and Wahoo. They all jumped on him, okay? And so now the guy's trying to get away, and my Uncle John raised his cane up and cracked Greg Valentine on top of the head. And my cousin Butchie said, look what he did. And I went, oh my God, he's gonna beat Uncle John. But Valentine looked and realized it was an old guy and left him alone. So it was his love for wrestling, his passionate love for wrestling that got me into it.
You know, and then obviously you're synonymous with Jim Crockett Promotions,
right.
NWA, WCW,
mm-hmm.
and we talk about your love is baseball, but obviously wrestling too. And it seems like from previous stories, it took you some time to be a part of the wrestling stuff. I mean, talk about that part of it just to say, okay, I want to do wrestling, or how did that kind of come about? Because I know you had to talk to the Crockett so many times because you were working down there.
Right. I started in Greensboro right out of college. Actually, my first job out of college was WTON Radio in Stanton. And then I wanted to be a baseball announcer, sent my resume out everywhere. The Greensboro team hired me. They were the Greensboro Hornets at that time. I think they're the Grasshoppers now. A year there, and then the Charlotte team was looking for an announcer. So I applied for it and went down and met Frances Crockett, and I knew who Frances Crockett was, the sister of Jim and David and Jackie, the Crockett family. She hired me to do her baseball. So now I was kind of in with the Crockett's. And that was 82, my first year. So during most of 82 and most of 83, I would tell Francis, if you guys need a wrestling announcer, come on, I can do it. I love wrestling. I know all about it. Plus, I was looking to make extra money because minor league baseball wasn't paying much. And so one day she called me in. She said, okay, all right. It's like, we want you to do something for wrestling. I went, yeah. She said, yeah. She said, we want you to go to Ric Flair's house, interview him about this big event we got coming up, Starrcade. I went, all right, I can do that. And literally, Jermaine, this is not a story. I could not sleep that night. I was so, not nervous, because I don't think I've ever been nervous, but I was so fired up about it, being able to interview Ric Flair. And so I did that. Ric Flair thought I did a great job. He told the Crockett's. And then a week later, she said, okay, they want you to do the local interviews, right? The local promos. And she said, there's going to be a problem. I said, oh, God, what's the problem? She said, the problem is they're going to want you there on Wednesdays. And I know they're going to use you more. But remember, you're working for the baseball team, not wrestling. And there were problems. There were problems where they wanted me there to do things, and she wanted me back at the baseball park. So by '85, Jimmy said, just do wrestling full time. Just leave baseball alone. And so I started doing wrestling full time. And by '85, and my baseball career ended at that time. It resurfaced, but that was it. And then later in later in '85, he said, we just got the rights to do wrestling, 6:05 Saturday nights on TBS. We want you to do it. And I went, oh, my head exploded, right? Because I used to see Gordon Soley do that. It'll be you and David. And so David and I started doing the show, developed a great rapport. To this day, very, very close friends. I even named my last child after him. It was a big moment for me. And so 6:05 on April 6, 1985, I was standing there with David Crockett doing Saturday nights, and that really jump-started my career.
And what's neat, so basically, this is the 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
Because it's 85, we're 2025.
Right,
So
exactly. Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that. April 6 of 2025, we had a pay-per-view, and Tony Khan told me, Tony Khan, big fan, right? God bless Tony Khan. He's really, on many levels, because not only hiring me and turning my life around, but also because he's a wonderful human being. And as anybody in broadcasting knows, working for a good person is worth its weight in gold, because we've all worked for terrible people. Just a wonderful man. So anyway, Tony Khan, this is how Tony is. Tony says, you know, it's the 40th anniversary of you being on TBS. He knew that. Wow. He said, I want you to see if you can find that pink bow tie that you were wearing during, I think it was one of our pay-per-views at WCW in 1991. He said, I want you to see if you find that pink bow tie you're wearing. I think that'd be very cool. I said, okay. Couldn't find it. Went to Amazon, ordered a pink bow tie. This is classic Tony Khan. So he was in his office, and I was there talking to him. I walked into the bathroom there, and I put the pink bow tie on. I walked back out. I said, how about this? He went, that's great, but it's not the same tint. He said, that was more of a carnation color, and this is more of like a light pink. I went, oh, God. Okay. So anyway, that was the 40th anniversary of me being on TBS. It was not the 40th anniversary of me being in wrestling, because I took 18 years off, but it was the 40th anniversary of me first being on TBS.
You know, when you go throughout the country, I mean, I'm sure everybody just bumps into you and they have their stories.
Yes.
And just even today, you being here, we've had so many people who work here that come up to you and share their stories and all of that. For you, it just seems like it doesn't get old. You enjoy it. How special is it to have fans that grew up watching you and doing these things? They come up to you and say, hey, Tony, you impacted me in so many ways. How special is that? Well,
they impacted me by being a wrestling fan, by watching the TV shows, by buying the tickets. And that's not lost on me. So when someone says, you're the voice of my childhood, I'm honored. I really, really am. I'm very honored. And I like to talk to people. I like to let them know that they meant a lot to my career. And I really think sometimes throughout my career, I've seen baseball players, Major League Baseball players, minor league baseball players, and I've also seen wrestlers not give the fans the time of day. And that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. These are the people that make you what you are. So it's special for me. People have said, "You're the voice of my childhood." I'm sure you've heard that a lot. And I said, yes, but I don't mind hearing it again. It means a lot to me.
You know, and then when you look at wrestling, commentating wrestling today versus back in your early days,
Yeah.
what is the biggest difference between you commentating now versus when you started in the 80s?
I think in the 80s we did, okay, in the 80s our television shows were basically, Tully has said that before, like an infomercial to try to get you to come to the arenas, because that's where they made their money. Because if you go back and look at those were just what we call squash matches, right? Very rarely did we have a main event match. Now, our TV shows are the thing. We want you to get to watch our TV shows. We want you to watch next week. We want you to watch our pay-per-views. We don't have an arena business anymore. So that's the difference. We're trying to get you to the arenas back in the 80s. Now we're trying to get you to watch our shows, and we make the shows exciting, therefore you'll want to watch it again.
In your wrestling career, what's the biggest shock? I have an idea, there was one I mentioned, but what is the biggest shock over your time of commentating that just you were like, wow, this really blew me away?
I think it was when Hulk Hogan turned. We, as we do in wrestling, no one really knew what was happening. And people say Heenan gave it away, but that's not true. That's not true at all. I was there, I know he didn't. But when Hulk Hogan walked out, and I remember thinking, well, wait a minute. And then when he turned, that was the biggest shock of my career. And I went back and I've watched that many times. It was so well done. He just ad-libbed. You fans are like this trash you're throwing in the ring right now. Brilliant. I mean, it just, you're thinking about the biggest star of the 80s, right? By far. And still probably the biggest star ever in wrestling. He and Stone Cold. And you think about what he meant to wrestling in the 80s, and now here in 1996, he just turned on the fans. It was a shocker. It was brilliant. It really was. And of course, you and I talked about David Crockett being knocked down by Nikita Koloff. I didn't know that was coming. A lot of things that happen, I don't know they're coming, and I like it like that. I really do. I know once it happens, I know what direction to take it. But like, for instance, if somebody turns on somebody, we've got a big pay-per-view coming up, I have a pretty good idea they're going to wrestle at the pay-per-view, so I know where to take it. But I don't really know what's going to happen, and I like it that way. I mean, right? As a baseball announcer, I don't know if that guy's going to hit a home run or not. So that's the way I like it.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Ferrell's 5, because I know you pressed for time.
Okay, I'm not pressed for time. Come on, man.
Okay, well, I'll give you Ferrell's 5. I mean, I don't want to eat up, but we're going to give you Ferrell's 5. These
Ferrell.
are 5 things. These are rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
These are questions. And rapid-fire. Rapid-fire.
Okay.
Okay, and I kind of know this answer. All right, your favorite color and why?
My favorite color, you're not going to believe this. It's green. You was going to think it's Georgia Bulldog red, right?
That's what I was
Okay,
thinking.
yeah, no, it's green. It really is. I don't know why. It's just always been green.
Yeah, I wore the black tie in your honor for Georgia.
Well, thank you, Georgia. Go Dogs. I like black and red and silver breeches, as they say.
That's good stuff. But, no, you're right. Question number 2, what's your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert is probably chocolate ice cream, of which I can never have again. I'm lactose intolerant.
Wow.
Isn't that bad?
I know.
I'd eat that stuff up,
Don't they
man.
have ice cream that doesn't have the lactose?
I have to take Lactaid.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You eat it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
Getting old sucks, brother.
Yeah. By the way, for people who are interested, if you want to say this, how old are you?
67.
67.
Yeah, I'll be 68 in November.
151. So there.
You don't look a day over 50, brother.
There you go. I wrestled in a 1968 match. I was on the undercard. If you're having a dinner party.
Yes.
Lois and Tony Schiavone is having a dinner party.
Right.
If you could invite 5 people,
Mm-hmm.
these could be people who are still with us,
Yes.
people who have gone to their reward from the wrestling world, who would those 5 people be and why?
From the wrestling world?
Yeah, they could be anybody connected to wrestling
All right.
that are either still with us
All right.
or have gone to their reward.
Okay, I would go with Eddie Kingston because he's one of the most entertaining people that I know. I would go with Saraya, just to make Lois mad because she's so beautiful.
Right.
I would go with Jack Briscoe. I would go with Hulk Hogan, absolutely. And I would say Ric Flair, but he would just ruin the dinner party. He may take his pants off or something, I don't know. Oh, and I tell you what, I would go with Magnum TA because Magnum was a fan, he was from Norfolk. He grew up watching the same wrestling I did. He had a great insight into wrestling. We had some great conversations back in the day before his wreck, even after his wreck. And I love talking to him about wrestling. That would be it. But Kingston would be number 1. There's nobody in the world like Eddie Kingston. And he had suffered a severe injury in Japan. He's coming back very soon. I can't wait.
Awesome. Okay, so question number 4, and this is something interesting. Okay, a wrestling match you could put together that you could call, and this is, again, historically, if you had 2, and first of all, it'd be a singles match and a tag team.
Okay.
You could put 2 people together and then 2 tag teams together, and you could call that match.
Yeah.
What would be the dream match you'd love to call?
It would be Ricky Steamboat in his prime against Kenny Omega of AEW. To me, that would be the one. And as far as tag matches are concerned, I'm going to always go back to the Anderson brothers. I would do the Anderson brothers against the Young Bucks, only because 2 different styles. And I would just love to see, because I knew Ole really, really well. He and I were very close. He was a miserable old son of a bitch. And I would just love to see his facial expressions after the Bucks did some of their crazy stuff, especially if they pulled out a table. Ole would go, what are we doing here? I think that would be great to see that.
And then not to leave the women out, women wrestlers.
Yeah, wow. I think I've seen it. I saw Tony Storm against Mercedes Moné. That would be the one match that I would want to see, and I've seen it. I think they are the 2 best women wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. And we got to see them at All In. And hopefully we'll see them again sometime.
Yeah, I would love to see that. That was a good match.
That was great, yeah.
And then as far, my final question for you is, what is something that you love doing away from wrestling? Like, what is something you say, hey, I have a break from it. What is something you love to do away from wrestling?
Collect baseball cards, vintage baseball cards. They just had the National Sports Card and Memorabilia Convention in Chicago. We were there. I stayed an extra day and tried to add to my collection. Spent too much money. I love that. I love hanging out with my dogs. We got 5 dogs. That's what I love to do. Love video games too. I play a lot, and that comes from having 4 boys in the 90s and them playing video games and me jumping in and playing with them. But baseball cards are really my passion more than anything else. And that's why, if I can add one more person to that table.
Sure, you can.
Reggie Jackson.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's my man. He is my man, yeah.
I tell you, I love watching those TBS games. You knew, it's funny with TBS because you knew if it was, say, TBS 605, or they cut your matches short because the Braves were playing.
Right, right.
Or another thing they did, which was neat too, is like if there was a rain delay, you knew you were going to get Andy Griffith or Sanford or something.
Sure, right, exactly.
But I think what's so neat about what you're doing is, like I said, you're about as nice a person. Now, I got to ask you this question.
Okay.
If you were a wrestler,
yes,
would you be better as a heel or a baby face, or which one would you want to do if Tony Khan came to you and said, hey, Tony, I want you to be a wrestler?
Yeah.
Which one would you feel?
Oh, I'd be a heel. I'd be a bad guy. I think that'd be the most fun, because it's so completely different than what I am. And I don't know if you saw this, when I first left wrestling, and then I think it was 2003 maybe, they brought me back to TNA to be like this heel guy. And I did it for one time, and then I told them, I said, I can't do it again, because by that time I was burnout. and I had a job at WSB Radio in Atlanta doing morning sports. And we were in Nashville, and I had to drive overnight, go back to do morning sports. And I told the guys, that's it, I'm not coming back. But it was fun being able to be a heel announcer and cut, as we say, promos on the other guy. So that would be it.
2 more quick questions.
Sure.
The first one is, okay, we talk about your schedule, you talk about your travel
Sure.
with Dynamite and Collision.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do a podcast. So when do you do the podcast, basically? I'm trying to remember when you do it, but how do you because you have a lot of stuff going on during the week. So what's your typical Tony Schiavone week?
Typical Tony Schiavone week is get up early with the dogs. We do the bunny run in the backyard, and which is wonderful. On Mondays, then we have a staff meeting on Zoom at 3 o'clock. We have another meeting at 4 o'clock on Zoom, and then we shoot the podcast 10 o'clock on Monday nights. Tuesday, I'm just kind of at home waiting for phone calls about anything that we have to change, anything we got to do, about maybe the shows coming up, matches, and then on Wednesday, I fly out. Go do a town Wednesday morning. Got the same guys I travel with. We're based out of Atlanta, which, by the way, is the greatest place you can live to be able to fly somewhere. They got direct flights almost everywhere. Atlanta's great. I wouldn't say the Atlanta area is great. I wouldn't really want to live there, but I did raise my children there, and we've lived in the same house 35 years, so I've been there a long time. Fly in Wednesday, do the show, fly out on Thursday morning, and then basically try to be a husband and we got some pretty good weekends. Now, that would be Thursday and Friday home. Saturday morning fly out somewhere, do the show. Saturday night, Sunday morning fly back home, and then we do it all over again. Now, if we tape Collision, what I do is I have a kind of like a makeshift studio at home. We do Collision, tape, let's say we tape Collision on Wednesdays or even tape it on Thursdays. Then when I go back home, Fridays and Saturdays, I'm working on doing audio inserts. If I miss something, or if they want me to promote something, or I said something wrong, the Nashville's where our production facility is, they send me video clips with countdowns on them. And say, you got 30 seconds here to say this. And then on the clip, it'll say 10, 9, 8, it'll do me a countdown to where I go, and they'll insert that in. So Fridays and Saturdays are pretty busy work days for me at home when we tape Collision. So that's basically it.
And then finally, Tony, you're a Hall of Fame announcer, Gordon Solie Award winner.
Yeah.
You've announced NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW, TNA, WWE or F.
Yeah, 1 year, yeah.
1 year there.
Mm-hmm.
AEW. So you've seen it. Your legacy is tremendous.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the Tony Schiavone legacy when it comes to wrestling?
I think it's that, wow. I think it's lending excitement to it. I think my excitement about wrestling is genuine. I think that comes from being such a big fan. I think my legacy is, boy, he really enjoyed that, and he really made us enjoy that because he did, and it was authentic. And that's what I think it is. I think that when it gets back to it, it's the excitement that I hate to say this, but, and I'm honored. I was honored about being in the Hall of Fame. I really don't like Hall of Fames because I always thought this is about the wrestlers, not about the announcers. And so I even said that in my Hall of Fame acceptance speech last year. And when I was told that they wanted to put me give me the Gordon Solie Award in the Hall of Fame, I told my wife, I said, I really don't want to do this. But then Jerry Briscoe called me. And you don't tell Jerry Briscoe no, because Jerry and Jack were very instrumental in me getting the job with the Crockett's. It was Ric Flair, the Briscoes, and Dusty Rhodes that were on my side to be an announcer. So I felt like, yeah, to Jerry, and not only that, I didn't want to be stretched by Jerry Briscoe. Hall of Fames are just, I don't know. I think guys like Gordon Soley, because he was, he was one of the trendsetters, and Jim Ross, who was my mentor. I think they deserve all the accolades they can get. I just feel uncomfortable about it, but you accept it because I know it's important to the fans. So.
Well, I have to disagree with you. You deserve it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's face facts. If people say, could you name 5 wrestling announcers, or maybe even 10?
Right.
My soundtrack is like you, David Crockett,
right.
Johnny Weaver, Bob Caudle, and he's still rocking and rolling. And then obviously you go to, you have your Bobby Heenan's, which you worked with, and others.
Right.
But I just want you to know, you deserve all the accolades. You're on that list. You're on that Mount Rushmore. I know you don't feel like you are, but you are, because again, look, the longevity, and new generations are getting the Tony Schiavone experience.
Sure, yeah. Well, there you go, the Tony Schiavone experience.
There you go.
There should
Space
be
Mountain, right?
If Lakeside was still open,
yes.
We would put a ride in there, the Tony Schiavone experience.
Tony Schiavone experience. And Lois would be the first one.
Yes, and the last.
The last. So you got 4 sons and how many grandkids?
I've got 4 sons, 1 daughter.
1 daughter, okay.
I've got 8 grandchildren,
wow.
6 granddaughters and 2 grandsons.
Wow.
5 dogs.
What do they think of you?
The dogs, they love me.
The dogs love you. What do they like when? Because I'm sure you're just like grandpa, dad, wife, husband. But I'm sure that your family's very proud of what you're doing, even though I know they poke fun at you. But there's got to be pride.
I'm sure there is. My granddaughters have grown up now. 2 of my granddaughters. I've got most of my grandchildren are very, very young. Mm-hmm. We had an event. We didn't have an event, but I went to an event with my friend QT, who was booking an event at Center Stage. So I went back to Center Stage for that event and did something in the ring. And we took my grandson Noah and my granddaughter Lila, 6 and 4. Okay, first match they ever saw, because mom wouldn't let them watch wrestling on TV. Okay, my daughter's strict. She's a good mom. And they were going crazy. They saw Jay Lethal, and my son said, "He's a ninja. He's a ninja." So every time I see Jay Lethal now, I said, "You're a ninja. You're a ninja." But yeah, I think they're proud of me. They love seeing me on TV, right? I tell you, who's really proud of me is my sister. Yes. Yeah, who still lives, up in the Shenandoah Valley. She's very, very, very proud of me. You know what? My Uncle John would have been proud of me too, because that's who I started watching. He died in August of '83, and my first time on TV was October of '83. How about that? He missed me by coming. And he said, "I'm going to see you on TV one day. I know I am." But yeah, so the family's proud of me, and it's been a great life, Jermaine. It really has. When I think about it, I've been very, very fortunate. Been in the right place at the right time. A lot of times it's all about timing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tony Khan.
Tony Khan.
Fan, you said it's good to have certain people as your fans.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Tony Schiavone, Hall of Fame wrestling announcer, play-by-play again, this coming Saturday. They'll be down to Berglund Center. Get there at 7:30. Don't get there at 8 because they're going to start. So get there at 7:30, and you'll see the whole AEW crew there. Tony Schiavone, Hall of Fame announcer. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jermaine. Thanks to everybody here. It's been a lot of fun.
Good deal. All right. Good deal.